equations and the approximations. Now, due to atmospheric refraction, they factored that in as well, and I'll tell you how they factored that in. So sunset and sunrise is when the upper limit is on the horizon. But when they chart their times from 18 degrees below the horizon, it's from the solar disk it's from the middle of the solar disk. So even when it's above your head, it's from the middle of the solar disk. So when they get down to the horizon, all of a sudden they've got to do a jump. Right? And that causes problems for their timings, because now you're not going by the middle of the solar disk, you're going by the top. And plus you've got atmospheric refraction as well. So assume a mean refraction value of 34 arc minutes and a semi-diameter for the sun at 16 arc minutes. So 16, 16, 32, which is the diameter of the sun, I'll explain to you on the next sheet. Consequently, when the upper limb of the sun is on the horizon, the center of the sun is actually 50 arc minutes from the center below the horizon. The time taken for the sun to cross the horizon at sunrise on sunset varies throughout the year and for different latitudes. So for 52 degrees, which is just above us, it ranges between 3.45 minutes and 4.55. So almost 5 minutes in the summer it takes for the sun to go down. So here's an example. Here's the horizon. So you got, this is where they measure it from when it's up there, right? So the minute it hits this, they've got to change their calculations now because they've got to measure it from the top. So this is where the sun actually is, right? But you're seeing it here. So when you see the bottom part of the sun hit the horizon, it's already gone below the horizon totally by about two arc minutes over. So then when they do the measurements, they've got to do 34. Yeah, so it's here. So it's 50 degrees from there, and from there they've got to recalculate and give you the times from there moving downwards. So the difference between, okay, again, this is the same thing I just showed you. Atmospheric refraction, the sun's about down here, so 90 degrees, it's the same thing. Okay, leap year, another interesting thing. I'm going to be wrapping up soon. So the Earth goes around the sun. Do you remember in the beginning I said to you it goes around the sun in 365.25 days? Now, there was a reason for saying 25 days. Now, before a leap year calendar was used, Pope Gregory introduced the idea of putting a leap year into the calendar. Why? Because the festival of Easter was falling behind one of the European pagan festivals. As you know, Christianity, the Catholics, the way they converted most of the pagan Europeans was by Christianizing their festivals. That's why, with Christmas and with Easter and everything, they're pagan festivals really. The 12 days of Christmas, the burning of the fire, the fir tree, the harvest time, Lent, and everything. So it was falling behind by a few days. So they wanted to fix it and make sure that those two festivals coincided. So they added the leap year. Now, you can do this at any point. They just chose that particular date. Other calendars, Iranian calendar, you've got the Chinese calendars, the Indian calendars. Most of them are lunar calendars, but they have lunisolar calendars where they kind of combine both of them. And you may be adding a whole month at certain points after a few years. So, but for the Gregorian calendar, it's a day every 4 years. So, do you remember I said to you 365 days, 0.25? That's a quarter day. So every year, you're a quarter day behind in your calendar. So 4 years, you're now 1 whole day behind in your calendar. And 1 whole day is a 5-minute prayer time difference. Even more depending on where you are. And on a daily basis, it's a minute or so. Right? So year in, year out, we're using timetables that were printed 20 years ago, and we're using them year in, year out, year in, year out. We have to print timetables that are location-based, elevation-based, and yearly based. We have to print them out yearly. So look, before a leap year calendar was used, the seasons drifted around the calendar. The drift is about quarter day or 6 hours each year. For example, over 300 years, July would end up in spring. If we didn't correct it over 300 years, your July wouldn't be summer, it would be in spring. Because our calendar doesn't match what's actually happening in the horizons. It's a bit difficult to do that. So how does that affect prayer times? Times need to be updated yearly, otherwise they too will be left behind. So here's an example. Now you've got these are the winter times for Salah. So 2012, dawn is at 6 o'clock. Right? That's the crack of dawn, as-subh sadiq. You've got to 8:04 to pray Fajr. right? And your Maghrib is at 15:54. So that's 3:54 is Maghrib. But in the summer, if you look at here, 5:21. The reason I chose the date 21 is because this is the last day before you can no longer calculate Fajr and Isha for 2 months. So this is the last day where you can observe Fajr and Isha times. Over here, Fajr starts at 1:26 in the morning. Isha is at 12:42. So you've only got like less than an hour, right? You've got 58 minutes between Isha and Fajr. Imagine fasting that long. So as you can see, look, this is the same date on the for 2012, 2013, 2014, and 15. Now look at the time changes, right? Because of the lag, the 6 hours. Salah time, your Isha time, 2012 is 24:42. Then it goes to 24:37. So you've got over 10-minute gap in just one year. Then it goes to 34, and then it corrects itself. Every 4 years, you've got the 4 years, so 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, it corrects itself again. So when they correct their timetable every 4 years, you're going to get back to the same dates. And then it moves on 4 years, and then they correct it again. Which means, but can you see the time difference? Look, 34, 42. Right? So if you don't factor this in, you're going to have prayer times that are going to be a bit out. Maghrib time, you're out by a minute or so. So not only have you got to factor in elevation, you've also got to factor in your leap times. So the reason I've put this in red is because, do you remember I said this is the last day where you can observe Isha and Fajr. From the next day, you can't observe Isha, and the day after, you can't observe Fajr and Isha. Right? But over the 4-year gap, we move back by a day, a whole day. So the day changes. Now it's 2 days, right? So it's the 22nd, which is the last day where you can observe Fajr and Isha. 22nd is the last day where you can observe. The rest is the 21st. Right? So you've actually moved back a whole day, or forward, or wherever it is. So Alama ibn Qadamah ibn Hamli writes, there is no difference in the scholars that the time for Isha commences when Shafaq occurs. So everyone says when twilight, the time for Isha commences. There is only a minor difference between the sayings as to exactly when Shafaq is said to have occurred. Some say Shafaq occurs when the red light after Maghrib disappears. Others say it is when the white light disappears. So these are some very famous personalities. Ibn Umar and Ibn Abbas, right? Mujahid, Sa'id ibn Jubair, these guys, Imam Thawri, all these guys, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Abu Yusuf, they said when the red light disappears. Now, Anas ibn Malik, Abu Huraira, great personalities, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, Imam Uzay, Imam Abu Hanifa, they state that it's when the whiteness disappears. Is their reference there? So now you've got great personalities saying redness and great personalities saying whiteness. So why is it that in England we still insist that we pray at 18 degrees solar depression? The reason for that is it's between 12.5 and 15 degrees that the redness disappears. Now in England, because it takes 4 hours for twilight to commence into complete darkness, you're not going to be in a clear position to determine where the redness actually disappears. It's such a fine line, it's very difficult. Different mushahidas will give you different timings for the redness to disappear. So you're in doubt as to when to implement that rule of redness disappearing. That's when Taqi Usmani says 99.9% of India Pak ulama say the time for Isha in England commences at 18. To be safe, pray your Isha at 18 degrees below and not before. So here we go, look, 99%. So Imam Abu Yusuf, again, is ease of the ummah. That's the reason why we do actually have leeway. I'll tell you why we do have leeway. Now these are the time differences. 18 degrees, 17.5, 15 and 12 degrees. Now some timetables in England are still running on 12 degrees. The majority are running on 15 degrees, and we're trying to get a drive in now where we're trying to get people to run in on 18 degrees. Now look at the time difference. This is 18 degrees. Your Isha is at 24. Actually, Fajr is more important to look at. 126 is Fajr, right? According to 12 degrees, 317. So you've eaten 2 hours into your fast time, if you follow a 12-degree timetable. Even if you follow a 17.5-degree timetable, look at the time difference. So just a half a degree, right? It's 20 minutes. 2 hours over here. So these guys who follow 12 degrees are eating into their... And I remember our mosque timetable when I was young. I remember the time for July and May. It was around that time. There were 12 degrees for the last 20 years, right? I've not seen the timetable in my mosque change, right? Even now they changed it, but they didn't do a proper job of it. It's not 18 degrees. So like this Ramadan, I knew which mosques had 18 degrees and which timetables to follow. And I knew which mosques weren't doing it, right? And like even certain friends of mine, they were following certain timetables. Like, brother, you can close your fast, it's fine, and you can do this. And I'm like, no, I'm going to close my fast before you because I've seen it, right? I know what the astronomical data says, and I'm not going to follow this mosque. And if you ask the mosque where you get your timetables from, this mosque says, oh, we got it from this mosque, from this mosque, from this mosque, from this mosque, and so it carries on. And these timetables are like 20, 30 years old. So dispensations, so you've just seen the times for Fajr and Isha now, right? They're at such extremes that how can you possibly pray your Isha and then pray your Fajr, in like a 1 hour gap? And if you got a 3 hour gap between Tarawih, how are you going to read Tarawih? And you've got a 3 hour gap between your fast and your with the fast you can't really play about much, but with your prayer there's dispensations. So what is the solution for perpetual twilight? Now, in this condition, it is necessary to still pray Fajr and Isha due to the hadith of the Dajjal. So basically, your Fajr, even if Fajr doesn't kick in, even if Isha doesn't kick in, which means you're not going to get a Fajr, we still have to pray. So we still have like a biological cycle. We still have a cycle. You're still getting the day and night, right? Even though you're not seeing it. So what's the solution? There's a hadith in Sahih Muslim. It's to do with the end of times. It's when the Dajjal will come. It's one of the signs. There will become a time when there will be a day like a year, a day like a month, and a day like a week. The people asked him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if during the day like a year, should they offer each prayer only once? He replied, you should approximate the times. Right? So that's what's happening. This is happening on a daily basis for those 2 months in England, 3 months in Scotland. Right? So you've got to approximate your times. So you should approximate the times. Now there's 4 dispensations given by the ulama. There's Aqrabul Ayyam, Aqrabul Balad, and Nisful Layl, and 1/7 of the night. Now any 4 of these options are valid for our areas during those months. And even outside of those months when your Isha time gets very late, you can implement these. But it's important to implement them as a collective community. So the nearest day to use Fajr and Isha times from the last day before persistent twilight. So basically for London that would be on the 21st of July to 19th of August. Now this is the last day you can measure Fajr and Isha. Right? So what you do is you set this day for the next 2 months. So every day your fast, your Sahur will be the same time, your Fajr will be the same time, your Isha will be the same time, your Maghrib will be the same time. There will be no change. Your nearest latitude. So that would be to follow the timings of a city or place where the signs of Subha Sadiq are easily distinguishable. So for us, that's somewhere in France. I think it's Bordeaux. The city of Bordeaux is the nearest city to us where you do get the twilight does disappear. Again, Suhoor will follow the time of that city, not your city no more. So middle of the night. So we know when the sun rises. We know when the sun goes down. We may not be clear what happens in between, but we know what happens here and what happens here. So what you do is you half the night. Now you make 1/2 for Isha, 1/2 for Fajr. So you pray your Maghrib, and after a time that the ulama stipulate, that's Isha now. Straight after that, any time after that, you can pray your Fajr. Suhoor would end at your midpoint. So when Fajr kicks in, even though the alamat, the signs are not visible to you, Fajr has kicked in and you stop eating. Then you've got 1/7 of the night. You divide the time between sunset and sunrise into 7 parts. Right? So the first 7th from Maghrib, from sundown, the first 7th is Maghrib. The second 7th, all the way to the last 7th is Isha time. And then the last 7th is your Fajr time. Right? It's a bit complicated, but that's how they do it. So your Suhoor ends on your last 7th. Yeah, this is an option as well. Now, each method has its benefits depending on your community. It's what your community come together as a whole and decide. Now, some mosques in England, when Wifaq ulama and these people approached these mosques and said, this is the evidence, you need to follow these times, why are you not following these times? They said, we want ease for the ulama, we want ease for the ummah, right? So we will give them an easy time. But you're contravening scientific evidence, you're contravening the Sharia, right? But just to make it ease for the people, and where they're getting these understandings from. So any of these methods can be followed. I mean, this is ease, because when you follow these methods can be followed after the spring equinox, because after the spring equinox, our days start to get longer than its nights, and very soon you'll find Isha is at 10, and it gets very late. So the ulama use these dispensations, and then you factor them in. So even if you're 2-3 months away from perpetual twilight, you can start factoring these. So this is Shari ease. This is ease that the Deen has given us. You know, this is not ease that you're making from yourself. You're pulling out your pocket and saying, okay, we're going to set these timetables because we want your money. We want you to keep coming in and not going to the other mosque because we want you to pay into our coffers. It is important for the community or city to come together and decide upon a method that will make it easy for the people. So Imam Nawawi mentions these methods in his work. So this is nothing new, right? It's been discussed with the ulama of the old, Rawdatul Talibin, in his commentary of Sahih Muslim. Ibn Abidin Shami, in his Radul Mukhtar, he discusses these. And you can get the fatwa of Muhammad ibn Adan al-Qawthari and Mufti Taqi Usmani. They have given fatwa on this as well. If you need updated timetables, you can contact me, not because I'm a great person or anything, only because I'm familiar with the science of astronomy and I've got access to resources and timetables. If not, you can go to the website of Wifaq al-Ulama. This is their address. They do yearly updated timetables for location as well. So if you're living in Birmingham, they'll give you Birmingham timetable. If you're living in Nottingham, which is it's close. But again, you're going to get minute variations. HM Nautical Almanac has a degree-based timetable, but they don't take elevation, sunset, solar disk. Okay, you don't need to worry about that. They have made an Islamic timetable complete with Hanafi and other Imam Asr times. So if you go to this website, you can actually print off the Islamic timetable there. So what you need to do is, remember I told you about elevation? Add 4 or 5 minutes to the start of Maghrib and take away 2 or 3 minutes for Fajr. Yeah, because it's at ground level and nobody's at sea level. I mean, here in Jizan, we are technically at sea level. So if we get a printed timetable, you can follow it blindly. But anywhere else, you're going to be on an elevated ground. So you need to add, it's important that when you do look at any timetable, considering most timetables are not accurate anyway, that you have to add in times. Even if it's 18 degrees, you have to add in 2 degrees, 2 minutes to 4 minutes for Fajr, for Maghrib, and take away that time. Because you're elevated, you're seeing the sunrise quicker, right? They also do moon visibility charts as well. So if you want to find out, is it Eid or not? Yeah, and why is Saudi and the rest of the world doing Eid when the moon's not visible? They'll tell you that as well. So just some personal observations from myself. Now, Muslims have been at the vanguard of this science for 1,000 years. You know, we really developed this science. We were at the forefront, the cutting edge of this science. Most of everything of what is built on traditional astronomy now comes from the East, comes from Islam specifically. Salah and moon sighting problems have only become about due to lack of basic astronomical knowledge. Now, it's very important to know your moon times. A woman's iddah, her 3-month period, is down to moon sighting. A maintenance that a widow receives, again, the waiting period is from your moon sighting. Your Eid, your Hajj, your Ramadan, your calculating of your 27 nights, the odd nights are all done by the moon. So it's very important that you know the moon. Second thing is that, this is for another talk, it's very important to know when to pray and fast, right? So astronomy should be introduced back into the curriculum. It used to be a core element alongside of Tib, Islamic medicine. Why? Because the Islamic the ulama, the muftis, the faqihs, they had such a huge role of responsibility on their shoulders that they were taught the science of Tib so they could heal themselves, right? And in times of need, they could earn a bread. People could come to them. People would come to them and they'd earn a living by that as well. Today, it's not taught in the curriculum. Traditional Tib is not taught in the curriculum. And astronomy, I mean, people will spend 8, 10, 15 years in our madaris and they'll come out knowing zero scientific knowledge, zero secular ilm. Now these ulama in today's 21st century, where we've got huge amount of Muslims living in the West, facing these problems, even in the East, we're so far behind now. Now these sciences, we need to revive our madaris. We need to get these sciences and other secular sciences into our madaris, so we can produce complete humans, right? Who not only know deen, complete scholars, they know dunya as well. And that's lacking. I mean, in most of our mosques in England, you're probably aware of this. You're probably aware that when we need an imam, they'll phone their village back home, or they'll phone a madrasa in Pakistan or India or wherever they're from, and call him over. Now this guy, who's only religiously educated, he's totally uneducated when it comes to the secular sciences. He spent some part of his youth isolated in the madrasa. He doesn't know what social problems we face, issues with teen pregnancies, drugs, sex, disrespect to peer pressure. He doesn't know anything about this. And he speaks a foreign language. Most of the youth cannot speak his language. How are they going to see him as a leader of the community or role model who's going to guide them? So our leaders are actually alienating our youth even more from what's really happening. By insisting that no, we're not going to produce homegrown scholars, and the ones that are produced, we're not even going to invite them into the mosque because of what their aqidah may not be sound, this may not be sound, he may have a problem with this. But what we're going to do is we're going to call somebody who's got totally no understanding of the first world, and we're going to call him here, and hopefully he's going to sort your problems out that you have with, subhanAllah, this is our thinking at the moment. And this is why the Muslim world's in a mess. In 1969, America sent a man to the moon. And if you look at the physics and the mathematics that went into the rocket science, and then that went into the calculations of where the moon is, subhanAllah, right? And we're 1,400 years, 1,000 years after our astronomers were at the forefront of this, we still don't know where the moon is, right? They sent a man to the moon, and we still don't know where the moon is, and we still don't know the time of Fajr, right? So this just gives you, just tells you how bad it really is. Okay. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Thank you very much.